you've talked a lot in the past about just kind of what Steppenwolf has meant to you. And one of the things, you know, we all go to Steppenwolf plays, and I've always wondered, what does it mean, what is it like when we're the audience, when the audience is not there? How is it a community? Can you go there, could you go there right now and just hang out with folks?
Well, yeah, I can go there and hang out with folks. I live here in Chicago. I go to the theater a lot. I'm an artistic associate at the theater, so which means I go to meetings, and I know the people who work there, not just the ensemble, but the staff. But our ensemble is now 43 people. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't get together 43 people without having some of those people just despise each other. Any group of 43 people. And there's some of those people I would not walk across the street to see or spend time with. You know, we paint a kind of, we paint a picture of all of us linked arm in arm, and there are things that link us arm in arm. I mean, we do have certain things in common. That's what brings us together. But, you know, some of them are terrible people. So, you know, that's just what you get when you get 43 people together. Some of them are going to be terrible people.
I'm assuming one member of the Chicago theater community who's not a terrible person, who we had a few months ago, is John Mahoney. And
oh, don't even get me started. No, he's a nice guy.
Yeah. So he was on, and he had a very kind of. I asked him what people always talk about Chicago theater or Chicago actor, and he had a very nice answer comparing Chicago actors to New York actors. And I was wondering, you know, what's your take? Is there really a difference, or is it just something we say to have city pride?
No, there's a difference. There's a difference. And I've become friends with New York actors now, so I can't just make blanket statements about them like New York actors are bad. That's not true. New York actors aren't bad. But the economics in New York have made the theater scene, it's very difficult to do risky work in New York. There's too much money at stake. Chicago's a very good city for the theater. It's the best city in America, as far as I know, to be a playwright. People will always come see your work, no matter how crazy, how off the wall it is. You can't necessarily do that in New York City. And I think some of that bleeds through the whole community. New York actors are mercenary. They have to be really mercenary. And the Chicago theater community is more supportive. We support each other's work in a more generous way, I think. Everybody in Chicago knows, in the Chicago theater community knows that the reason we're here is to do theater as well as we can do it. We're not sort of using theater as a springboard to get on to the next thing. We're not saying, oh, if I do this play, maybe then I can get this show or a TV show or get on to Broadway. We're doing it because we like to do it, and we're doing it here because we like to be here. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what accounts for the difference.
You had an LA experience.
Yeah.
Is it really, you were on the Festivus episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Is it really that bad out there?
Oh, it's a terrible place. It's a terrible place. I liked the city all right. I got along in LA surprisingly well. The business is brutal, though, and all the things you hear about the banality of that business, and it's all true. There are also great people in Los Angeles, and they're trying to find each other through all the dreck. But there's a lot of dreck. And, you know, yeah, I did the Festivus episode of Seinfeld. I worked for 4 days on Seinfeld. And it was great, and it was a good paycheck, and God knows it's paid off like a slot machine since then, because that thing just keeps running and running and running. But it's funny, you know, you come back home, you go elsewhere, and people see that on your resume, and they say, wow, you're on the Festivus episode. And I say, yeah, but you got to understand, that falls so far down on the list of things that are important to me in my life. That was just 4 days out of my life. And I was at the Festivus table, and they were nice people, and we had a lot of laughs, and I'm glad that happened. But a guy called me. He was writing a book about that episode. Not about Seinfeld, but about that single episode. And I tried to explain this to him. I said, look, it was 4 days out of my life. I was a day player. They never learned my name. I was in and out. Yes, I understand. But what was in the dish at the Festivus table? I was like, I have no idea. So, you know, I'm glad I was on it. I'm glad I did it. But, yeah, LA's 4 days. Maybe that was the only 4 days I worked that year. And that's just not enough to feed the soul. Not enough for me, anyway.
Well, what's next for you here?
I'm doing a lot of work at the theater this upcoming season, 2010-2011 season, as an actor. I'm doing... Amy Morton, who was in August, Osage County, she and I are playing George and Martha in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf at the theater next season. So that's exciting for us. And then I'm doing another town a year from now at the theater called Middletown. Did I say another town? Another play. A year from now called Middletown. And it's a good new play by a guy named Will Eno. And I've got the summer off to try and catch up on some writing that I'm doing, and that's what I'm doing. And
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Killer Joe at the Royal George. Check it out. It's really worth seeing.